Is that the dude from Arrow? Oh, Stephen Amell. Yeah, love him. He's great. Oh, Robbie Amell. He was the Firestorm dude in The Flash. Okay, we'll go figure. Han from Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. Oh, we are playing this movie right now. What's going on, you guys? James here with another Real Review, and today I'm talking about a new-ish sci-fi action movie to hit Netflix, Code 8, starring Stephen Amell, Robbie Amell, and Sung Kang, like I just mentioned in the intro. Is it worth your time, though? I'll dive into that, I promise. But before I do, if this is your first time here at the channel, welcome to Real James. Now, if you're wondering who that is, that's me. And I love talking all about movies. So if you do too, and you love what you hear and what you see, go ahead, hit the big red button below and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to tap on the notification bell right next to it just to stay up to date with anything new. I just dropped some videos this week. I didn't drop any reviews per se, but I dropped a lot of different conversation pieces. And tomorrow I'm dropping a cool little video talking about some ticket stubs, old ticket stubs that I found in my closet, literally from 2012 till now. So it's gonna be a fun time, you guys. But hey, that's not what you came here for, right? You came here to find out whether or not Sense8, this movie you probably heard about on Twitter, is worth your time. Well, there's a little poll at the top of the screen, and it's gonna ask you if you've even heard about the movie. And in the comments below, don't be afraid to start a conversation and let me know what you think of the film when you see it. And if you think Stephen Amell is still probably one of the most handsome dudes you've ever seen, because he really is. Alrighty guys, so let's dive right into Code 8. Now, like I said, it's a sci-fi movie set in a fictitious world, think New York, but it's called Lincoln City, I believe, and it's a very interesting premise. Now, it's not a premise you've never heard of before. Superhumans with superpowers are kind of ostracized by society, and then you have the regular humans that are like, we don't like them, gotta get them out of here. Then you have some that are fighting for them, and then there's a huge power struggle with the superhumans themselves. They're struggling to make a living because society is ousting them. The movie's directed by Jeff Chan and written by Chris Parr. They worked together on a film called Grace the Possession in 2014, but this is their first, I would say, big feature-length movie together. The film comes in just under 2 hours at 1 hour and 38 minutes, and yeah, I guess we might as well just hop into it, huh? If you haven't heard of the movie, it's okay because it went relatively under the radar last year. At the end of last year, it had a limited run in LA, I believe, and it was a movie that was funded entirely by patrons on Indiegogo. It raised a little over $1.7 million, if I'm not mistaken, which explains why some of the production value seems okay for a film that you probably have never heard of. Now, without spoiling anything, let's dive into the plot. A guy named Connor Reed, played by Robbie Amell, is struggling to help his mother who's suffering from a health condition. It's this world's equivalent of cancer. And in Connor's instance, hard times lead to hard crime. He needs to find money in fast, so he gets caught up with this guy named Garrett, played by Stephen Amell, and his crew of misfits. There's this drug going around called Pike, and they of course have to go and not only steal it, but they want to, well, gather large quantities of it to control the market. And basically, one thing leads into another. You've seen crime dramas before and you understand where this is going, right? I don't have to explain it to you. Well, it becomes a little predictable, but we'll dive into that. Let's start off with some of the positives, though. I do enjoy some of the special effects here, and like I said, the production value is passable. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I couldn't tell you that there was one point where I'm like, these special effects suck. Actually, on the contrary, they look pretty darn smooth, and I would say that the film, technically speaking, is actually pretty average, and it's something to expect from a Netflix movie, an average film, I guess, that you would watch on a weekend. I enjoy Sung Kang in this film, even though he's barely in it, so it's like a positive and a negative. For like the 15 total minutes of screen time that he gets, he's really good. He's very smooth. If you've seen the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift and some of the other Fast and Furious movies, you know that he's got very good line delivery. He controls the screen when he's there. I just really like the dude. It's like what the kids say nowadays. I'm standing for him. And then the only other actor that stood out to me here is Carrie Matchett. She plays Connor's mother, and she does a pretty good job in the emotional department. She conveys a lot of that grief, the pain, the agony of her condition. You just really empathize with her character pretty much immediately because you know where the story is going. And other than that, I mean, in the acting department, it's really not notable. I mean, those two are fine. Everyone else is a little wooden. Now, okay, is the movie the worst film that I probably have seen on Netflix? Absolutely not. You know Netflix is sometimes a dime a dozen when it comes to great films, and this seems to be just a very average to corny film. It's nothing that's going to blow your socks off, and I blame the writing here because it's very wooden. The dialogue is incredibly forced, and I have to imagine that it sounded better on paper than it was executed on screen. Robbie Amell is very generic. He's not necessarily an actor that gets past the smoldering phase. You know what I mean? He does that a lot. He doesn't necessarily convey a ton of emotion. Even when there are scenes that call for his emotion, you don't get it. Stephen Amell does his best to pick up his cousin, because yes, they're cousins, and they look so darn similar, and it's so distracting sometimes, I swear. But Stephen Amell he's a class act. I really enjoy him. He's great as the Arrow, and I really think that, is it the Arrow or Green Arrow? I don't know. I stopped watching the show after like season 46. But yeah, he does his best to pick up his cousin in certain scenes. The only thing is, he does too much of that rather than control the screen. But I don't know if this is the best role for him. It's, again, another generic role. And I definitely didn't care too much for the plot. I mean, I understand where they're going. The superpowers are... Listen, you've seen so many of these movies before. Go watch Chronicle. It's most likely going to be better than this in terms of unique superpower storytelling. But here is just very traditional. You've seen it. Nothing is unorthodox. The beats are literally the same as some other movies, and we've seen this done better in X-Men. And like I said earlier, the movie's an hour and 38 minutes, so it's nothing too crazy that you can't sit down and enjoy, but the problem is the middle of the film gets very dry when it tries to, I don't know, give you exposition through dialogue. And nothing like that would ever work in a film like this, but Code 8 is definitely not the kind of movie that you sit down for and look at the narrative. And I know I mentioned it a little while ago, but Sung Kang barely being in the film leads me to believe that they kind of just shoehorned his role into the script. I don't know where most of the budget went after they raised X amount of money on Indiegogo, but I have to imagine Sung Kang doesn't just join a film without having a decent price tag. So maybe they didn't want him on screen for too long, so they didn't have to pay him too much money. I don't know what the deal was there, but him as this detective or this drug enforcement officer is really good. I enjoyed him. You just don't get anything, especially in the second half. He's there and he's gone, he's there and he's gone, and then they try to introduce his family, and you're like, time out. Why are you introducing so many different threads into this plot? And then eventually things get so convoluted. I mean, there's even this character named Nia, who is supposed to be this pseudo-interest for Connor in the romance department in some instances, and then it gives off the vibe of where Connor's being selfish because of her healing powers, and I don't necessarily know where the movie was trying to go, but it seems like the film was on a set path for the first 40 minutes or so, and then it just pivots, and that's a big problem because then you start to get distracted thinking, do I need to care about the story or do I just want to watch the action? So if you're here for just an action movie, you don't get that all of the time. But if you like some decent special effects and a couple of performances that are at least passable and everything else being average to bad, I guess this is the kind of movie for you. So if you're asking me overall what I think of Code 8, I think it's a passable sci-fi movie on Netflix. It's nothing that we haven't seen before. And again, the premise does get a little dry and predictable because we've seen this story before. I love Sung Kang. Carrie Matchett is good. I don't think anyone else is necessarily outstanding. Both the Amells are just there sometimes. And again, the production value is impressive for the most part, but I think this is a good Saturday afternoon, Sunday afternoon kind of film where you're on the weekends, you don't have much to do, like we're in quarantine right now. If you throw it on, you won't be mad, but if you don't watch it, I don't blame you either. So I guess if I had to rate Code 8, I give it a Code 3 out of 5 stars. Dang it. I tried not to laugh while saying that line, but there you go, guys. That's my review of Code 8. If you enjoyed everything you just heard and saw, again, don't forget to hit the big subscribe button below. It's red, you can't miss it, and tap on the bell right next to it. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you think of Code 8 when you see it, or what you think of the movie after hearing me talk about it. Like this video, share it with your friends, and of course, don't forget to check out all the content we have coming up this week. This is the last video I'm doing before Easter morning, so happy early Easter if you don't watch tomorrow's video. Alrighty guys, again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening.